Welcome back to Horn Takes. It's time for this week's edition of Around the Horn, where we talk about everything that happened over the weekend. Before we do that, before we get into college football, let's jump into Texas basketball. Texas basketball had a game against Houston Christian. I believe that's formerly Houston Baptist. Thursday night. They ended up winning that game by 51 points. So not a huge test at all. The interesting thing about that game, Texas was only 47% from the charity stripe. Not good. Not good. Worse than that, they were 3 for 22 from 3. So they got a 51-point lead, which is great. I believe the defense gave up the second least points a Texas team has ever given up in a game. 31 points. But they were really bad shooting the ball, really bad shooting free throws. Obviously, they're a really tough team when they're running. But they get into half court, and it is just not good. They're going to have to figure that out. I know it's a new group of guys. That's the deal. Basketball, unlike any other sport, you got new guys over and over and over again. Hard to build a lot of continuity. We're seeing a lot of turnovers from the young guys. They're going to have to grow up quick. They got Gonzaga coming in on Wednesday, I believe. Number 2 ranked Gonzaga just came off the heels of a really big comeback, second half comeback against Michigan State. I believe it was double digits. So number 2 Gonzaga will be in the house on Wednesday at the Moody Center. All right, now let's jump into a little bit of college football over the weekend. Not a super awesome college football weekend, but there were some pretty big games on the national spectrum. We talked a little bit about who was on upset alert last Friday. So the first time I've ever just said, you know what, I'm going to talk about who's on upset alert. And I had 2 games where I thought some people might be on upset alert. LSU on the road at Arkansas and Baylor at home against Kansas State. 1 for 1 here on the upset. LSU went on the road again to Fayetteville. Never an easy place to play. If you're a visiting team, you don't want to be a visiting team in Fayetteville. But they eked out a win, 13-10 against Arkansas. I thought it would be a little higher scoring than that, but I wasn't surprised with the outcome. To me, that one could have gone either way. You had LSU, again, beating Alabama. Everybody talking about how great they were. And then you got to turn around and go on the road. And as we've said multiple times, Fayetteville is not a fun place, not an easy place to play for a visiting team. So I was close on that one. I didn't call it. I just said they need to be careful. This next one, I didn't call either, but I said they need to be careful. Baylor was favored against Kansas State. Kansas State is a very, very disciplined football team. If there's one team in the country that you can always say they're going to regroup, they're going to be disciplined, they're going to be sound, they're going to be tough, Kansas State. They went into Waco Saturday night and dropped a hammer on Baylor. So Kansas State's got themselves back in the driver's seat for the Big 12 championship game. They needed some help, but they got it. One of the big games we talked about, and it's really kind of, I guess, probably one of the bigger national games over the weekend was number 9 Bama at number 11 Ole Miss. This game was interesting to me because for Alabama, it's on the road. Ole Miss, a really good running team. Lots of weapons on that Ole Miss team. Alabama has struggled mightily on the road. They're 3-1 in their big road games this year. But 3 of those games, they just did not look good. I predicted Bama 31, Ole Miss 27. The final score was 30-24, Bama. So I was pretty close on that one. I didn't get a chance to watch all the game. I watched just a few minutes of it. At the time, Ole Miss had a lead, first half lead. I believe they went into halftime 17-14 in that game. Just some other notables across the country over the weekend. Oklahoma lost. Last second field goal by West Virginia. West Virginia has always been a tough place to go play. And Oklahoma's not a very good football team. I'm surprised about that, though. I figured Oklahoma would be able to pull that out. West Virginia is also not a very good team. So sitting with 2 games left in the season, Oklahoma is not bowl eligible yet. They need one more. So they need 1 out of their next 2 to become bowl eligible. One of those is against Oklahoma State. Bedlam. It's never a gimme. And then the other one, they got to go out to Texas Tech. Texas Tech's looking all right. Not great. Just all right. Aggie loses on the road at Auburn. The battle of the bums, so to speak. That seals the deal for A&M. There will be no bowl game for the Aggies this year. Not like they went and played in it anyway. As you guys may recall, they decided last minute that they weren't going to go play their bowl game last year. Blamed it on COVID. Not buying it, Jimbo. Nobody's buying it, Jimbo. Oklahoma State got a close win at home against Iowa State. Stay in the hunt. They're still in the hunt for the Big 12. They need some help. They need a lot of help, but there's really 3 teams that sitting there that still have sort of a chance to be that second team. TCU's in, obviously. Congrats to TCU. They locked it up with the win over Texas on Saturday. But then you got Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Texas that all, if they win out, they'll need some help, but they've all got a little bit of a shot. I personally feel like it's going to be Kansas State. I think they're the most consistent team. Oklahoma State, I think, is still real banged up at quarterback. Texas, who the hell knows? Texas is as likely to go 0-2 in the next 2 games as they are to go 2-0 or anything in between. Speaking of Texas, let's talk about this number 4 TCU at 18 Texas game. Really, really disappointing game for Texas fans. I'm sure it was a disappointing game for the players. It was obviously a disappointment for the program. I mean, you look at this game, the way it's set up. Texas had a chance, an opportunity for a really big Saturday night. Number 4 team in the country coming in. Lots of recruits. Sort of the recruiting momentum really picked up late in the week last week with guys who were supposed to take visits other places, showing up and saying, nope, we're going to go to Austin. We're going to go watch this TCU and Texas game. Arch Manning made it into town again. He's been doing a great job recruiting for Texas. Jonte Cook, another guy that's been committed for a while and has been after lots of players trying to get them to come to Texas. He was there. Anthony Hill, the number one linebacker in the country, which at the beginning of this season, I would have said linebacker was a weakness for Texas. Over the course of the season, and especially now, it's one of the strengths. I think the front seven for Texas defensively is really, really strong. The starters, absolutely no depth. No quality depth at linebacker. Now, there's quality depth on the D-line, especially in the interior. But the linebacking core is Overshown and Ford. So you got all these recruits. You got a chance to get a big signature win for Sark, a big signature win for the program that says, hey, we're taking the next step. We're finally starting to knock on that door, right? We're ready to compete in these types of games. It was a late November game that meant something. Chance to stay in the Big 12 championship race. The crowd at the game was absolutely insane. I was at the Alabama game earlier this year. I've been at games where Texas was playing highly ranked opponents at DKR. I'm not sure that Saturday night wasn't the loudest DKR has ever been. The crowd was ready. The crowd brought their A game. So all of these things are shaping up for it to be just a phenomenal night for Texas. Then the defense goes out there and finally gives a championship type performance. I mean, they played their asses off. By the way, if you're listening in front of your kids or you don't like to hear cuss words, there's probably about to be some cuss words. So I apologize for that, but I'll also warn you, don't listen if you don't like them. If you do like them, but your kids are around, go ahead and pause. You can listen to it some other time. We finally get this championship level performance out of the D, and the offense completely shuts down its leg. I mean, just absolute shit. If someone came up to you and told you this before the TCU game, Texas fan, college football fan, maybe even just someone that doesn't even pay that close attention to college football, but has some knowledge of the game. If you told those people that the Texas defense would hold TCU to 284 total yards, they'd hold TCU to less than 125 passing yards, they'd have 5 sacks in the game, they'd hold TCU to 17 points, and they would score a defensive touchdown. None of those people would say anything other than there's no way Texas loses this game. There's no way Texas doesn't win this game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. If all those things are true. If you tell someone before the game all these things are true about the defense. I thought Texas certainly had an opportunity or a chance to lose this game. I thought it would, if it happened, it would be like 42-38 or 41-37 or something like that, a shootout type game. Never in my wildest dreams did I feel like Texas's defense would perform the way they performed on Saturday night. So kudos to those guys. Coach K has been taking a beating all season, and rightfully so. But his guys were ready to win. They were ready to take the next step Saturday night. Sark's guys, not at all. Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers. I'm not going to bash Quinn Ewers. That's not what I'm about. These guys, I call them kids a lot. I still think they are kids, even though they're adults technically. I remember when I was 18, 19, even on up to 22. The mindset's different. You're still a kid. You're just a grown kid now. So I'm not going to do that to Quinn, but I think there's some fair things to talk about with regards to Quinn's performance on Saturday night. It was the absolute worst game he's had. He completed a pass to TCU before he completed a pass to a Texas wide receiver. He was really, really inaccurate with his passes all night long, especially early in the game. There was a couple of opportunities on 3rd and longs early in this game to not only convert, but maybe on one of them get a huge play. I believe it was 3rd and 9. I remember elbowing the guy next to me and saying, look at the middle of the field. It's wide open. The safeties are pulled up. They're up tight. They're 8 yards off the ball. One of the only times that Sark really spread everybody out in that game. And JT Sanders is running free down the middle of the field. And Quinn hits him in the shin. Now, should have been a catch. No excuse for JT Sanders. He got his hands on it. He should have caught the ball. It would have been a first down. Who knows what happens then? But if Quinn hits him in the numbers, I think Sanders had a decent shot to score on that play. That's how wide open he was. Certainly takes the ball past midfield on that play if we can get him the ball in the numbers. Another play, 3rd and long. Xavier Worthy runs a little square in. Ewers just sails it. Worthy elevates. He gets 2 hands on. He should have caught the ball. He would tell you, I should have caught the ball. Instead, it goes through his hands. Get to punt the ball again. Quinn hits him in the numbers. It's an easy first down. But you know what? Thinking about the game, who knows if X even catches the ball? He dropped a couple of passes in this game. He's been struggling with that all season. Ewers' body language was bad this whole game. Usually Ewers is, I said earlier in the year, he's like a psychopath. His mental state is always just completely level. Whether it's good or bad, you're not going to get a lot out of Quinn Ewers. And he's not going to let it affect him going forward. Saturday night, he just looked down. He just looked defeated. He I would look down on the field after a bad throw. He'd put his hands on his hips, hang his head. He just really struggled. Really struggled. I think this point in the season was just too big of a moment for Quinn Ewers. And let's not forget, Quinn Ewers is a freshman. He's a redshirt freshman. He's supposed to be a true freshman. Remember, he left high school a year early. He's putting way too much pressure on himself. I think the offensive staff is putting too much pressure on him. He's not seeing the field very well right now. Huge miss in that game. Was late in the game, inside the red zone. Bijan Robinson takes off into the flat and up the side of the field on a little wheel route. He is wide open. He was covered for a split second. And I've got to think that Ewers saw that. But I don't understand why he didn't anticipate him being open. Because if you're even, you're leaving, right? Anybody that's played quarterback or been around football very much has heard that phrase before. If you're even, you're leaving. You got to anticipate that. If your wide receiver or your target is even with the defensive back, he's open. Throw him the ball. Instead, he checks down. He hits Sanders. Picks up a decent gain. Wasn't a failure of a play, but it's not the type of play that you have to win games like that. Quinn's last 3 games, he's 50 for 119. That's 42%. In case you didn't know, that is not good. He's got 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. In case you didn't know, that's not good. I just think that this staff is putting too much on his shoulders, or he may be putting too much on his shoulders. His deep balls have just been terrible. Just not even giving his guys a chance. That throw to Worthy that got intercepted was so short. And for a guy with arm strength like Ewers has, it's tough to be short. He just didn't have it Saturday night. And he just hasn't had it really since the OU game. I don't know what that's about, but I hope they figure it out. Because I'm rooting for Ewers. I'm not trying to stir up any kind of quarterback controversy whatsoever. I think if you look at the talent, Ewers is the guy that's on campus right now. Now, here's where I'm probably going to start throwing some people under the bus, and I don't care. Steve Sarkisian, you got to be better. You make millions of dollars, and you have one job. It's to win football games. You got brought to the University of Texas to do one thing, win football games, and win football games like the one we had Saturday night. That's it. Just go fucking win the game. Instead, the offense was completely AWOL. Just bad. And some of that's on the players. They dropped some balls. No doubt. Quinn delivered some passes in that game that should have been caught, and they didn't get caught. But here's where I will criticize. This is what I will blame Steve Sarkisian for. He's been giving up on the running game all season long. And I know the running game against TCU wasn't working out. We got a few big runs, but for the most part, it was heavy sledding in between the tackles. There wasn't a whole lot going on. On the flip side of that, TCU didn't have a whole lot going on either until they did. They stuck with it. They did what you do to win a game like that. What's the rush? Your defense is pitching a shutout. Your defense is playing the best they've ever played since you've been there. What's the rush? You have to think that with Roshan Johnson and Bijan Robinson, who, by the way, only got 17 carries combined in that game, which is fucking criminal. Those two dudes are going to play football on Sunday. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think Roshan is going to be better on Sundays than Bijan Robinson. So there's a horn take for you. Regardless, two guys that are going to play football on Sundays, you gave them the ball 17 times. I think Steve Sarkisian, I think you're too stubborn. I think you refuse to see what's actually happening during the game. Your whole game is like, let's get the running game going. At least this is what you say. We're going to run the football. And then we're going to throw it over the top. What I saw a lot Saturday night was trying to throw it over the top without establishing the run. And I get it, man. TCU had to have gone into that game and said to themselves, these running backs are not beating us. We need to do whatever we can do to keep these running backs from beating us. And a lot of people are saying, oh, they stacked the box, man. There's 8-9 guys in the box. Well, dude, you made it easy on them. You didn't even make them have to decide or disguise anything. You kept trotting out the two tight end look with one of them not even really being a tight end. He's an offensive lineman in a tight end number. You bunch up everybody within 10 yards of the ball, either direction. Of course, there's going to be a shitload of defenders around the ball. Why not spread it out a little bit? Force them to make a decision and be creative to attack whatever decision they happen to make. You can't cover everything. But you didn't even make TCU have to make a decision. Whether we were throwing the ball or whether we were running the ball, 80% of the time we were all bunched up. I keep hearing about, Steve Sarkisian's an amazing offensive mind and he's a whiz with quarterbacks. I keep hearing all this stuff. And in some games, it's there. It was not there Saturday night. What happened to the offensive schemes that we saw against Oklahoma? What happened to all that motion from the outside to the inside, then back out to the outside? There was a point in that Oklahoma game where they ran the same look 3 plays in a row, the exact same formation, the exact same motion with Keelan Robinson. And they ran 3 different plays out of it. 1 run, 2 passes. In 3 plays, they covered about 40 yards and threw a touchdown pass. Like it wasn't shit. What happened to all that? I feel like the only thing that's consistent about Steve Sarkisian's offense or his game plan every week is that he's going to give up on the run when we don't bust. If Bijan Robinson doesn't have 100 yards in the first 2 quarters of that game against K-State, he would have abandoned the running game in that game. And we would have probably lost that one. So we're going to give up on the run and we're going to throw the ball down the field just 10 times. Just because, right? And he even said it. You have to take these deep shots. I get that. But if you don't hit on a deep shot ever, which we haven't done much this year, it's a wasted down. When you get 9 yards on first down running the ball, and the very next play is a 40-yard incompletion, now you don't make the defense have to make a decision. They know exactly what's coming. You're going to run the ball again. How many times did TCU stop us on third or fourth and short? I get it, man. You want to throw the ball down the field. I love throwing the ball down the field. I mean, I think if you can connect on it, it's like a gut busting, gut wrenching play for the defense. It's huge. But they're not doing it. We need to figure out how we can get Quinn Ewers settled into a game, get him some confidence, completing some passes and moving the chains. And then maybe in the second quarter or something, let's start throwing the ball deep. You're killing your offense's momentum. And Saturday night, they didn't have a whole lot of momentum to kill, but you killed it every single time. And I know, I get it, man. The players have to execute. But you're not at Alabama anymore. You don't have 5 stars backing up 5 stars. Right now, you don't have a junior and senior laden offensive line. I think the offensive line has improved a lot this year, and I think in 2 years it's going to be really good. It's going to be what you want it to be. It's going to be what you had in Alabama. But it's not right now. Stubborn. Steve Sarkisian refuses to let Card go in the game, and I don't know why. Ewers struggled against Oklahoma State. He struggled mightily against TCU. And he got asked about it after the TCU game. And his comment, pretty fucking ridiculous, in my opinion. I didn't think it was fair to put Card in that situation. He's literally the fucking backup of a college football team. What situation do you feel like is fair to put him in? Is it not the backup's job to back up the QB1? What is unfair about going, Ewers, I love you, man. We're going to sit a series. Let's see if we can get a spark with Card. And it's not like Card doesn't have good statistics. There's a big enough sample size today that says right now, Card is just as good. Let me back up. He's just as productive, if not more productive than Ewers has been. Card's got a better completion percentage. He's completing like 70% of his passes. A few years ago, Colt McCoy set a NCAA record by completing like 71% of his passes. Card's at 8.6 yards per completion, which is better than Quinn Ewers. Not by much, but it's better. The knock on Card has always been he can't get the ball down the field with any kind of accuracy. But I've got to tell you, and that's probably true from last year. Like, Card was bad on the deep balls. I didn't think you could be any worse on the deep ball than Card was last year. Ewers is absolutely worse than Card was last year at deep balls this year. It's got to be historically bad. Like, you might be able to, like, close your eyes and throw the ball down the field and connect more than Ewers has connected so far. And again, I'm not trying to knock on you. It's the facts. QB rating, card, much better than yours. Why not? Why not throw the change up, Sark? You don't have to quit on yours. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not saying that today Steve Sarkisian should come out and say Hudson's our guy going forward. I'm not saying that. But you got the players on campus, man. You should use what you have. I mean, again, your goal is to win the game. Your job is to win the game. It's not to it's not to coddle your starting quarterback. The only thing I can hope is that part of this stubbornness is Sarkisian playing the long game, and hopefully it pays off. Maybe in his mind, I got to stick with Ewers because I know he's uber talented. I think he's more talented. Obviously, his upside is probably better than Hudson Card's, and he doesn't want to damage that. He's trying to get him as much experience as he can. That's the only play I see right now. Anything else doesn't make sense. Speaking of playing quarterbacks, you know who can spin it? Malik Murphy. He's a freshman out of California. I watched him in warm-up Saturday night. I don't feel like there's anything that Ewers can do with the ball that Malik Murphy can't do with the ball. And I'm not advocating that he get any playing time. He came in the fall. He was hurt. He hasn't been here long enough. There's no doubt about that. And then he got hurt during the season at some point. I think Malik Murphy is going to end up being a really big get for somebody because I don't think he's going to stay at Texas that long. That's just my opinion. I don't have any inside information. If I'm Malik Murphy and you got Arch Manning coming, you've got Quinn Ewers that's going to play at least another year, more than likely. Then you got Arch Manning coming in. There's a good chance you don't ever play if you stay at Texas. And I think that kid's got some skills. I always liked him. I always liked his film from high school. The kid can throw. So I think somebody is going to get a really good transfer portal guy in Malik Murphy at some point. I hope he stays. I hope he gets some play. I mean, I want to see him play. Talk about a big, imposing kid, Malik Murphy. I think he's like 6'5", 240 pounds. He's athletic. And he's got a strong, strong arm. If Quinn Ewers' arm is much stronger, I'd be surprised. So, yeah, Sark, he's too stubborn. He's going to do what he wants to do. And again, maybe it's all long game. He's the head coach. He's the one that's got to deal with either the good things that come out of all of these decisions or all the consequences of these decisions. And I'm sure he's doing what he thinks is right. I'm just a fan. But it sure seems like he's just pig-headed. And he's either going to turn this thing around his way or he's going to go down in flames his way. And I feel like it's just unnecessary. There's more than one way to skin a cat, they say. There's more than one way to win a football game. That pump block call I didn't like. I know they weren't blocking him. I know if he blocks it and we score a touchdown, I'm not saying the same thing I'm saying right now. I just felt like you got some momentum. You finally got some points on the board. The defense did it again. They went and stopped them. Got you the ball back. You're going to get it in pretty decent field position. It reminded me a lot of the 2001 Big 12 championship game when Colorado was just beating our ass. We finally picked away long enough, got ourselves in a good position. Defense gets a stop, and we go for the all-out block. We rough the freaking kicker, which, by the way, I don't know how you rough the kicker if you don't ever touch the kicker. I didn't see him. I saw it didn't look like he hit him in the game when I was at the game, and it did not look like it at all in any of the replays I've seen. I thought that was a really weak call. And yeah, I'd be saying it if it was TC. If it was the other way around, I'd be saying the same thing. I'm sick of refs. The freaking delay a game on the defense was fucking ridiculous. They shifted. You know what's crazy? TCU's defensive line did it the very next series. The exact same shit. No flag. These officials are bad. Texas's offense was bad. Congratulations to TCU. Y'all locked it up. I mean, I don't have any ill will to those guys. They played a good game, and they had two big offensive plays. Their defense played really well, and they were able to chip away. They stuck to what they wanted to stick to, and it worked for them. I felt like we abandoned what we needed to do, and the result we got is the result we got. So Texas has 2 games left. They can go out and they got 2 choices. They can go out and win these 2 games, put good performances on the field, try to get into a better bowl game, or they can pack up the tent and do what they would have done last year. I hope the team responds and gets a big road win up in Kansas. They owe Kansas. And then I hope they do it again at home against Baylor. Overall, the season has been better than last year. It's just not exactly what we want. You guys subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about the podcast. Rate the podcast. You find me on TikTok at Horn Takes Podcast. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com. Shoot me some questions. I like to answer questions. Hook 'em.